All right, so the book that I've chosen to talk to you about is called Will Grayson, Will Grayson. And the reason why I read it is kind of funny. I was in France this summer. I lived for a month in southern France with a family there, a bilingual Spanish-English family, to help tutor their kids and things like that. And one night I was in my room for the night, and I was walking out to go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I noticed this book sitting on the floor right outside my door. Like, that's a little odd, but I didn't think anything of it, so I just grabbed the book and proceeded to read it throughout the month there. I later learned that the person that left it there was one of my host sisters, who's actually the same age as you all, and so she had left this there for me to read because she thought I'd like it, and she was right. I also wanted to read it because it is by John Green and David Levithan, who are two really awesome young adult writers, but who I had not read anything from before, and I felt like if I consider myself, I also have a degree in English, and if I work in high school and have a degree in English, I should probably know these two authors. So the book actually centers on two boys, two high school boys, I think underclassmen about your age, both of whom share the name Will Grayson, but who come from very different backgrounds. Each author writes the voice of one of the boys, and it alternates back and forth between chapters. The first boy, written by John Green, and they have very stylistically different writing if you ever look at it. Even the way that they type it out is interesting. The first one is just a very low-key kid, Will, very low-key, and kind of doesn't really have very many friends, doesn't really want any friends, just kind of wants to fly under the radar. And I will read a short excerpt from him where he talks about his one good friend that he's had his whole life, who becomes a center point in the story. So this is actually the first page of the book. When I was little, my dad used to tell me, Will, you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose. This seemed like a reasonably astute observation to me when I was 8, but it turns out to be incorrect on a few levels. To begin with, you cannot possibly pick your friends, or else I would never have ended up with Tiny Cooper. Tiny Cooper is not the world's gayest person, and he is not the world's largest person. But I believe he may be the world's largest person who is really, really gay, and also the world's gayest person who is really, really large. Tiny has been my best friend since 5th grade, except for all last semester when he was busy discovering the sheer scope of his own gayness, and I was busy having an actual honest-to-God group of friends for the first time in my life, who ended up never talking to me again due to 2 slight transgressions. 1. After some school board member got all upset about gays in the locker room, I defended Tiny Cooper's right to be both gigantic, and therefore the best member of our shitty football team's offensive line, and gay in a letter to the school's newspaper that I stupidly signed. 2. This guy in the group of friends named Clint was talking about the letter at lunch, and in the process of talking about it, he called me a bitch squealer, and I didn't know what a bitch squealer was, so I was like, what do you mean? And he called me a bitch squealer again, at which point I told Clint to F off, and then took my tray and left. So that's page number 1. As you can tell by this point, if you don't like cursing, this might not be the book for you. That was John Green. David Levithan wrote the other character, who is really sarcastic. It's a much darker section. He has this very sarcastic sense of humor, but a very just like debilitatingly depressed teen who is himself gay and is kind of dealing with that, but just has a very sarcastic sense of humor. But this is a really sweet section from him that I like, that kind of gets to the root of some of this. He lives alone with his mom. So this is the David Levithan section. So he finishes, has this online friend that he has a crush on, and he says, they finish their conversation saying, I wish you too. This is dangerous because as a rule, I don't let myself wish for things. Too many times when I was a kid, I would put my hands together or squinch my eyes shut, and I would devote myself fully to hoping for something. I even thought that there were some places in my room that were better for wishing than others. Under the bed was okay, but the bed wasn't. The bottom of the closet would do, as long as my shoebox of baseball cards was in my lap. Never, ever at my desk, but always with the sock drawer open. Nobody had told me these rules. I figured them out for myself. I could spend hours setting up a particular wish, and every single time I'd be met with a resounding wall of complete indifference. Whether it was for a pet hamster or for my mom to stop crying, the sock drawer would be open and I would be sitting behind my toy chest with 3 action figures in one hand and a Matchbox car in the other. I never hoped for everything to get better, only for one thing to get better, and it never did. So eventually I gave up. I give up every single day, but not with Isaac. It scares me sometimes, wishing it to work. So I think that those are 2 passages that really kind of get to the crux of those characters' voices and who they are. And I won't tell you how, but eventually they do end up having their stories intertwine. And I really enjoyed it. It kept me flipping through the pages. I was very thankful to my French host sister. So,
Thank you.
Will Grayson, Will Grayson.